Hello and welcome to this very special DungeonFog patch update video. Now, if you haven't been hearing what's coming up in this patch, you are in for a amazing experience. I have to say, when Till here started to show me what was going on, I was sitting there going, yes, 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 this is everything that we've been waiting for and more, folks. So, Till, firstly, thank you for joining us today to show us all the cool tools that are coming up.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We're very excited for this. We were planning to do an update like this early this year, but then with all the data stuff, it got a little bit postponed. So now we had the time to add even more new features to it, and I believe you will be really happy with all the things that are going on now in DungeonFog version 5, as we are calling it now.
Yeah, what's up with that? Because we haven't had versions before.
Yeah, so the thing is, it is, in terms of where DungeonFog was before and what DungeonFog is now, it is a major step, but it also is now relevant because of all the feature upgrades that we've implemented. Some of them require you to convert your maps into the new version because they are just, there's so many new things in there that not everything can be compatible with the old maps that you've created. Don't worry, you don't lose any maps. You can always open them in the old version. But now, if you want to use the new version, you have an option to convert your maps into the new version. And you can, by creating new maps, you will automatically end in version number 5.
Okay, so yes, we won't lose anything. We're just getting so much more. Now, we got some demonstrations to show you, and we're going to first talk about a tool which I confess I don't really use it very much, but I've been told reliably that we will be moving forward. The right-click circular context menu, or just the circular context menu. Now, I call it right-click because that's how I remember how to get there. You're just going to right-click within the DungeonFog space. Is that right? So what is this? I mean, it's been around before, but now it seems like it's more important.
Yes. When you select an object, like, for example, this room that I have created here, when you select the room itself, you get it's called a circular context menu, although it's not circular at the moment, but it gets circular the more options you have. You can, for example, hide a specific element or delete a specific element just by using the right click, so you don't have to refer to the tools bar. So for this update, we have gone through the menu quite a lot and we've added new things. And you will see that throughout the whole process of features that I'm showing, that I will be constantly referring to this right-click menu. So for example, if you select the room point, you right-click, you can delete the room point. Now, no more room point. If you select the wall, you could split the wall again, so you don't have to always select the wall, then go and split and come back. It's a convenience feature. And you can also, let me get rid of that once more, you can also hide wall elements like that. So instead of having to always refer back to the tools bar, the right-click context menu gives you a lot of those options that you regularly use directly to your mouse, which I think is very helpful.
Now, just whilst you're talking on that, I mean, absolutely, these are great functions. I did notice that you don't even have to have the toolbar parked on the particular menu that you are accessing. So you don't have to even move to the room tool in order to access the hide and the...
No, it's completely based on what you have just selected. So the click defines what I have selected. The right click then defines or brings up the menu, and you can then do stuff with that. So let me just hide that one as well. So if I would select that one, right click gives me the options to hide that object or delete that object.
Okay, so so we're going to be using that circular context menu moving forward. So let us jump then into one of the first, and I think arguably it's one of the biggest updates because it's going to make things just better on all levels as far as I'm concerned. This is a really great one. Brushes. Brushes are no longer the things that we once knew them as. They're completely overhauled.
Exactly.
What happened?
Okay. The brushes you knew before were basically, technically speaking, strokes that were just, if you have ever been using Affinity or GIMP or Photoshop, it's basically a vector stroke where you defined how thick the stroke is. Now you can only do so much with that, and we said we really wanted to change the way that you can brush onto your map. And the best way to explain this is basically to show it. So when you go to the brush tool, you will see that you now have, as before, you have the option to define the tip size. Using your shift mouse wheel, you can also adjust your tip size. And then you have the options between the tip itself. So you could have a square tip or you could have a round tip. We now have additional snap to grid alignment. We will tackle that in a minute. And you can now, well, basically pick your texture, start with softness and opacity, adjust all of that. But you can then, when you start to brush something, you will see that you have a shape now. So this shape is now editable. I can go on and I can go and add more of those brush strokes to this general brush layer that we are having here right now. Best way to show this is if you look in your room, in that case my unnamed room because I forgot to name it, I can see that I have this specific layer where the brush stroke sits on, and I can always come back and edit that. So I can either by using the operations up here or by pressing my Alt key, I can start to remove things from that. I can start to change the softness, so it is becoming just a regular non-soft stroke or non-soft brush, or I can ramp it up until it at some point just gets invisible. So I need to find something that makes sense for my map, probably that here. I can adjust the opacity, and when I'm done with that and I feel like I'm happy, I can press enter, or I can, let me go back into the brush by clicking edit, I can finish the brush. So that as long as I have an active brush, I will be adding to that. Now, if you think about that, a lot of you, as have you guys, are using the brush to refine their maps. So technically you have been creating all those various strokes. And if you wanted to come back and edit a few of them, it was quite painful. Now it is one single layer and you're done. You have that there. And you can always come back and re-edit that particular brush layer. So there is a reason why I've parked our staircase here, because let me just finish that one. Enter, done, brilliant. Now it looks like nature is slowly claiming this construction here. I have prepared those stairs here, and let me put them into my room. So they're now part of the room. There is this very interesting new feature as well coming along with the brushes, and that is because you now have brush layers, you can sort them. So I can create a new brush layer, and there let me just quickly use another new feature that we have, that is the texture picker. I can just pick any texture and it automatically gets applied to my texture selection. And now I can add a new brush here. And it will be, we need to adjust it a little bit, but it will be sitting on top of my staircase. So what I can now do is I can go in and refine it even more. So I can work back here until I find my corners.
Whilst you're doing that, do we still have a separate, when we go into room contents, are brushes still separate in their own menu as a brush
No.
level, or they're now part of the props?
No, they are now part of the props.
Fantastic.
So,
okay.
Let's pretend that I'm happy with that, which I'm not, but we want to move forward.
Yes.
Enter, done, I'm happy with my shape. Just a brief one, let me add here another one. And now let me just, in that case, I need to go back into the texture, but let's bring that down to 20% and reduce the softness a little bit and probably the lightness a little bit. That's too much. And look what we've done. We have now created, by brushing over existing props, we have now created a completely different look for our staircase that more or less blends into what we are expecting here, which is the round stairs, the stone tiling, another stone tiling in the center, and if I like, I can move my overgrown terrain upward a little bit, and now it's bleeding back in. So those are now props, and I can sort them, and I can always go back, select it, and then right-click, edit, and refine it. So all of that stays editable, and all of that stays as you have created it, and on top of that is now sortable as well. I can go in and I can set those above walls. So I can set the brush above walls, and if I would now rotate it a little bit, you can see that we can also start to create or dive deeper into this experience where walls are being overgrown, are being sunken into the ground. So brushes can now be above walls as well.
And you combine that with some foliage, it will look absolutely amazing.
Absolutely amazing.
Okay. Gosh, brush tools. I mean, just that's enough of an update for me. I'm happy, but that's not enough for you guys. You went even further.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So with the brushes being turned into shapes, and then the shapes being usable as props, there was also an overhaul to shapes, the bane of my existence. For once they are created, they may not be changed unless you start all over again, which has happened many times in my life. So what's happened with shapes?
Okay, so first of all, let me just quickly, well, let's move it aside. So let me show you the following. Let me do something with 2 grid size, and it should, it's snapping to the corner. That's perfect. So that you can see better, I will do an outline for that. I can start drawing something where I can, where I can add to the shape, to the left and to the right, here and here. And let's do something down here. And now you will find that when you finish the shape, when you select it, you will find that there is a button that says Convert to Room Experimental. Be aware of that. What you do with the shape, and it can be whatever shape you create, is you can convert it to a room. In the current version, we're still, while we're shooting here, we're still on the test server, so there are some minor glitches that we still need to iron out. They should be finished when you see this video, because then alpha, I'm calling it alpha, version 5 has been released by then. But right now, when I click there, you will see that it converts into a room, but we're losing a point at the moment. So if I click here, you will see that this point here is being lost, and I need to manually add that. But this shape has now been a room, which means that if you're thinking about freehand drawing rooms, especially caves, for example, then this is our first step into that direction. It's far from being perfect, but it's already useful enough that I said I want to have it in this release build so you can play around with it. But it is fragile enough that we have put the big warning that it is an experimental feature.
So I just want to check. You're saying that this is experimental and it may break.
Yes. Yes.
Just to be clear.
Just to be clear, if you play around with the convert shape into room tool, there is a big chance the more room points it might create, the higher the chance that it breaks. So please save your map before and probably just play with it, experiment with it, as the name says, but don't expect it to be a finished feature.
And send feedback, because obviously one of the first tools we can see this being used at is in cave creation, where you use the circular tool to make a more organic shape, but that generates more points, and as a result there is less stability. So it's a work in progress. I love this feature of being able to create the room, and then it has all of the room properties. Is that right? So once it's been turned into a room,
yes,
vertex control points,
yes, and as you can see, they also have every texture now has the picker. This room is already prepared. It's a shape. I did it by creating circular walls and stuff like that. But now I want to duplicate that room, because this tower that we're building should have 4 of those rooms on the ground level, because it's just storage. So what I can do is I can just press D for duplicate, and I will get a complete duplication, including brushes, props, lighting, everything I did to that room is now being duplicated. But that doesn't help me, right? Does it? No. That doesn't fit. So what I can do is I can shift rotate if I like to my room.
Shift using your scroll wheel. So shift, yes, and then
shift and scroll wheel. But we figured that most of the times you want to have something that's not kind of manually aimed, but you're basically going for 45, 90, or 180 degrees. So there's a new feature now that when you press R, you will see that you get a little information overlay where I can enter 90 degrees, and now the room gets turned by 90 degrees. And I can add it to this. So let me start to build the same goes for groups. So I have those two, and I don't want to duplicate the room 4 times or 3 times, but now I want to create a room group. Okay, I should have named this. This is center, and this is
north,
top, and
top.
This well, let's call it storage, because top will not be helping us a lot. Storage and storage. They can have the same name. So when I put them both into a group, I can now select the group, duplicate, rotate, or again, as I did before, but let's do it manually right now, and place it. It will never meet your points exactly. You will always have to then shift it back a little bit, but then it fits perfectly. And this one, because the stairs are leading down, this one should not have a hidden wall. And there you go. Here you go. I have just, by simply duplicating and rotating rooms, I have created my first level of this tower. And this is a big tower. There are several levels like this.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, the room duplication and rotation is fantastic. So it's R to punch in a value of the room.
Exactly.
And then it's shift scroll if you want to just rotate your rooms around. Now this works with any room, and you can do it after you've done the fact as well. So you could simply left click on a room and then just shift and start scrolling.
With every room, yes. Oh, and that's, by the way, I almost forgot. Another thing that also works is, let me just, because this is beautiful, I don't want to mess that one up, is you can scale rooms now.
That was my next question. Can you scale? And that, how do you scale then? Because scale was traditionally Control Shift and then scroll.
Apologies, I'm so used to my own tool. Control Shift mouse wheel. Control Shift mouse wheel, and you scale a room. Now, what it does, it assumes, it tries its best to stay in the correct positions. The weirder the room is you have created, the weirder the scaling gets, apparently. So you will have to play around with it. But as long as you stay with circular rooms or L-shaped rooms or T-shaped rooms, so if they're not overly complex, the scaling works perfectly, the rotation works perfectly. But there might be edge cases where the scaling creates weird edge points. So keep an eye out for that. Let us know, because that is then part of our next hotfix.
Okay, lovely. Yes, I can see if there's crenellations within a room shape. They're expanding towards each other. All right, that's fantastic. But okay, so I mean, the duplication of the room is just amazing. And then we can, of course, go in and delete props from some of the rooms and that sort of thing. But what if this is a 20-level tower? Now I have to go, I mean, yes, I can duplicate rooms per level, but that's still, 80 duplicated rooms that I have to make.
So the first thing you need to know is you can, whatever you have been able to do that before, and you can do that with rooms now as well. You can duplicate across levels. So if you pick something up, let's say this one, duplicate, as long as it sticks on your mouse, I can create a new level, go there and place it down. That has been working before, and it is working for rooms now as well. But given that we're building a tower that has probably a very similar layout, it would be much more amazing if I could just duplicate the level, which he just did. So now, just to see the difference here, let me go into layers. Let me just change up a few things.
Yeah, so, just get rid of the crates. It's no longer storage.
Right, it's no longer storage. So let's get rid of the crates. And we also don't need the stairs anymore. Okay, so as you can see, I have now, this is level 2. And this is level 1. So I should
there we go.
Ghosting off. So now we have 2 levels by just duplicating a level.
Oh, it solves so many staircase problems and ladder problems and big giant maps being duplicated for second level is fantastic.
Yes, while you're saying big giant maps being duplicated, this is a point where I need to remind everyone that you are working in a browser-based editor. Project Deus is in development. That is going to be a desktop application software. If you have a giant level that you want to duplicate, you might just overstress your browser. Be careful again. Sometimes it makes more sense to duplicate rooms across levels than just duplicating the whole level. Also, if you're building a layout, here's a small advice. As long as you haven't decorated and lighted all the rooms, duplicate the layout. That's not as stressful to a browser as it is duplicating a fully drawn out, brushed, shaped, decorated and lighted map with 35 rooms. That will most likely be too much for a browser to deal with that kind of requirement and processing. And once Deus is out, that will not be an issue anymore because then you're on a desktop application. But until then, since we're still working in a browser here, just keep in mind that there are limits to what a browser application can do when you're trying to duplicate. But yeah, I have used that already. I've drawn my ground floor, and then I've just duplicated it and then changed a few rooms. I didn't even have to draw them. I just rotated and scaled them. And I had a perfect second level. Yes.
This is probably how they built the pyramids, now that I think about it. Just duplicate and shrink down a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they have been built by aliens, so apparently they have those features.
Don't tell anyone. All right. Just moving on. I mean, there's still more. There is still more. I mean, like I said, I hope you settle down because we're going to be here for a while. So, all right, room level duplication, fantastic. Something that's been a bit of a bugbear for people for quite some time is lighting and doors.
Yes, right. So I'm going to take the archway and place it here. And as you can see, doors have never been able to let light through. Whatever I do with my light source, the door is technically still part of the wall element, and I would have to hide that specific wall element, or I had to kind of work around that. Now I can select, let me get rid of the light settings. I can select my door, and here's a new button that says transparent.
Get out the way.
And once I activate it, here, Guy, you can pinch your nose against it. Oh, yep. Yeah. Here you go. This is our new button. And when you click that, it makes the door transparent, which is perfect because now light and shadows are passing through.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And Windows you mentioned?
Sorry, yes. Same goes for Windows. So let me just pick a window, probably a bigger one. Let's a long single window. Let's put that here. So now we have a window here. And when I say transparent, you will see that light is coming through the window, or especially, where's my light source? I lost it again. If you put a light source outside.
Oh, fantastic.
Light is shining into your room. Exactly. So, that's another thing that we have added. It is, and same for this feature as for the room tools, this is step number 1. We have a giant task of reworking our doors even more next year, where you will then be able to kind of tilt how open the door is, that also then pays attention to the light that is passing through. Right now, this is what we said, a good compromise for this year's update, where we can give you a few of the options that you've been asking for quite often. And next year, we will then revisit our doors tool, doors and windows tool, and do a lot more with it.
And then finally, with regards to this whole update of version 5 of DungeonFog, there were some bug fixes that are going to get rid of an old enemy that we saw sometimes, especially those of us who broke the browser.
Yes. So first of all, we took the time to investigate what are the most common reports that we're getting, and we tried to fix a lot of those problems. There are token problems that have been reported quite often, where the token image doesn't load when you would like it to be loaded, especially when you had custom uploaded tokens. All of that is now fixed. So when you're in your campaign manager and you select your tokens from your collection, they will properly load. When you're in the player viewer, when you are in the GM's viewer, those tokens now do load. We have finally closed the gaps and fixed the things that were causing those problems. We have also implemented what we call a repair script. When you open a map, at the beginning, we are checking if the map object is still fine, or if there are things in there that might cause a problem, and we will then just auto repair it. which means most of the time remove the one object that is causing the problem. It does mean, however, that the repair script is reading your map on loading, so your loading takes a little bit longer. We had to kind of do the trade-off between, do we want to see the error messages, or do we want to have a repair script that, depending on how big the map is, might increase the loading time a little bit. And we all said, having no error messages would be really amazing. So we are fine with waiting a little bit longer on the loading screen.
No, absolutely. And that is it for version 5. I mean, it's taken us, I don't know how long to go through all these new features. I cannot wait to begin playing with all of these new things. And I know for a lot of us, we've kind of got used to our workflows, and this is going to be a step forward where everything that we wished we could do, we can now pretty much do. So it's super, super exciting. Till, thank you for sharing everything that we have gone through today and showing us and just doing such nice demonstrations too, I must admit. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Enjoy version number 5. As you are seeing this video, it is already being released, so I hope you're already sitting there and drawing new maps, and I hope you share them with us. I would like to see what you're doing with all those new features and tools. We will, over the next weeks, slowly update our tutorials and make sure that they are now up to speed with the new tools there. And until then, all I can say is thank you very much, happy map making, and stay safe, everyone.
Goodbye.